Well, every society has its own problems. Which, moving on to the problems with our own society, would you guys be interested in hearing former President Bill Clinton's thoughts on NATO expansion?
Yes.
What
Okay, all
else
right.
do I want in this one?
Yeah. I was about to throw myself on a train track until you suggested this.
I got this article because Matt, you posted it this week, and it was like, this is Bill Clinton writing in the Atlantic. I tried to put Russia on another path, and your point about this is that this is his version of the O.J. Simpson book. If I did it,
Yeah. This is him going, if I didn't do it.
if I didn't do it, yeah.
If I had really good intentions, imagine that.
So he says, my policy was to work for the best while expanding NATO to prepare for the worst. Bill Clinton writing in the pages of the Atlantic. It begins, when I first became president, I said I would support Russian President Boris Yeltsin in his efforts to build a good economy and a functioning democracy after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. So he's supporting Boris Yeltsin's effort to build a good economy and a functioning democracy.
Well, mission accomplished.
Yeah, way to go, dude.
Well, one of the strongest economies I've ever seen. And, so certain unfair people would say that Bill Clinton and Bob Rubin and Larry Summers and everyone else, Bill Broder, all these people, that their actions in this country actually reflect how Bill Clinton treats women, which is just repeatedly penetrating them unconsensually. But neither are true. He has done for the economy of Russia what he has done for every woman he has met.
He says, yes, I would to build a good economy and a functioning democracy after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. But I would also support an expansion of NATO to include former Warsaw Pact members and post-Soviet states. My policy was to work for the best while preparing for the worst. I was worried not about a Russian return to communism, but a return to ultranationalism, replacing democracy and cooperation. Replacing democracy and cooperation with the aspirations to empire, like Peter the Great and Catherine the Great. I didn't believe that Yeltsin would do that, but who knew who would come after him?
I think you did. You did because you guys picked him, actually. Yeah.
If Russia stayed on a path towards democracy and cooperation, we would all be together in meeting the security challenges of our time. Terrorism, ethnic, religious, and other tribal conflicts, and the proliferation of nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. If Russia chose to revert to ultranationalist imperialism, an enlarged NATO and a growing European Union would bolster the continent's security. Near the end of my second term in 1999, Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic joined NATO despite Russian opposition. The alliance gained 11 more members under subsequent administrations, again over Russian objections. Lately, NATO expansion has been criticized in some quarters for provoking Russia and even laying the groundwork for Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. The expansion certainly was a consequential decision, one that I continue to believe was correct.
Ignoring the insane who knows who would come next. The fear of ultranationalism in Russia specifically leading to military belligerence. I mean, it is useless bringing up what people fucking forget because it's everything. It's everything that was even 2 weeks ago, much less something that was, over 20 fucking years ago. But Russia's incursion into Chechnya both times was broadly supported by the West. Tony Blair has made several speeches and public statements saying, you know how we prevent Russia from backsliding? We help them just wantonly kill Muslims. So that was never a fucking fear.
It goes on here, Sarah. As United Nations ambassador, sorry, Felix, I can't get over I can't get over wontonly.
What is it supposed to be?
Wantonly. Wonton is like the Chinese food.
Who cares?
I think Felix is hungry. That's what that means.
No, I just ate. This is like the 700.
Was it Chinese food?
No. I don't eat China. I only eat that on special occasions because they put the wrong
Christmas.
In that. Yeah. I can't get. I typed in virgin boy egg into Grubhub and I got arrested. I'm not doing that again. That's my favorite food from China. I did a little trick or treating of my own last year, and I was going door to door asking if anyone's son would pee on my egg. No one did. So no, I had Greek, where they do that for free.
He goes on, as United States Ambassador and later Secretary of State, my friend Madeleine Albright who recently passed away, was an outspoken supporter of NATO expansion. So were Secretary of State Warren Christopher, National Security Advisor Tony Lake, his successor Sandy Berger, and two others with firsthand experience in the area. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, John Saakashvili, who was born in Poland to Georgian parents and came to the U.S. as a teenager. And Deputy of State Strobe Talbot, who translated and edited Nikita Khrushchev's memoirs while we were housemates at Oxford in 1969 and 1970.
Okay, I would love to talk about all these people that like Bill Clinton Eiffel Towered on a plane with, but you said Deputy of State.
I
Boom.
did.
Yeah,
Fucking
you
roasted.
did say Deputy.
That isn't even a word.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
The word I fucked up was also a word in the other way.
Very delicious, honestly.
Yeah.
Can't stop thinking about wontons now.
So it's how should I say it?
Wantonly.
Wantonly. It's like the same word. Like people will know. People can use context clues.
I'm
It's
sorry.
like there.
I'm sorry. I've been hosted by my own Wait, okay, not right. I'll stop. At the time, I proposed NATO expansion. However, there was a lot of respected opinion on the other side. The legendary diplomat George Kennan, famous for advocating the policy of containment during the Cold War, argued that with the fall of the Berlin Wall and the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact, NATO had outlived its usefulness. The New York Times columnist Tom Friedman said Russia would feel humiliated and cornered by an enlarged NATO. When it recovered from the economic weakness of the last years of communist rule, we would see a terrible reaction. Mike Mandelbaum, a respected authority on Russia, thought it would be a mistake too, arguing that it wouldn't promote democracy or capitalism. I understood that renewed conflict was a possibility, but in my view, whether it happened depended less on NATO and more on whether Russia remained a democracy and how it defined its greatness in the 21st century. Would it build a modern economy based on human talent in science, technology, and the arts? Or seek to recreate a version of its 18th century empire fueled by natural resources and characterized by a strong authoritarian government with a powerful military? I love the idea that that they would really they really wanted Russia to build a modern society and an economy that could compete on a global stage.
How were they supposed to do that when we dismantled their entire fucking like infrastructure and sold it off to the highest bidder? How was that supposed to happen?
Yeah,
Like,
and
they didn't get enough. They didn't get a Marshall Plan. Like they asked for one, and we told them to fuck off.
Yeah, and if we're being honest about what Clinton and several underlings and allies did to Russia in the 90s, allowing them to come back in any form, because it's obviously like still not a fucking great place to live, though it is improved in standards of living from the 90s in a lot of ways. Allowing them to come back with a world economy that has any leverage on Western Europe and some on the United States is a catastrophic L. Like fucking that country up so bad and then letting them have any leverage on you in the future is probably the absolute worst way you could have done things. And
Yeah,
that
they
is
fucked it up
kind
so
of
bad. It's
how
amazing.
you do it. It's like that. I mean, like I think everyone listening is at this point pretty skeptical about Trump Russia bullshit. Despite the fact that it's a great avenue for anti-corruption on the left. But like, you know, as we've said, like with that, if they did steal a US presidential election after what we did to them, you just got to take that. You just got to fucking hold that one. You've got to take that one on the chin. That's like you ran up behind a guy who's half your size, hit him in the head with a fucking brick, and he's permanently disabled. He's in a wheelchair, and he like fucks your wife and burns your house down. Well, that's really on you, isn't it?
Fair enough.
Yeah. How'd that happen?
And that's what's like. It's or would they want to create an 18th century empire fueled by natural resources and characterized by a strong authoritarian
You mean the
government?
thing they have? What they would want?
Natural resources and a big military is the leverage that they have. So he's like, well, they should just get rid of that and become a state.
They should just get rid of that and
has a strong tech sector.
Yeah. Look at
what?
Like, it's like, hey, you know the country that just abused you and like gave everyone HIV and crashed your standard of living by like a fourth? Don't have the things they have.
No.
Don't have a giant military, natural resources. Do not, under any circumstances, you do not want that.
Projecting military influence on your neighbors? Do not do that.
Yeah.
Look inward.
Reminds me of my favorite T.I. song, Be Better Than Me.
It does. It is. It's basically exactly what Bill Clinton said to the industrial workforce of America after NAFTA passed. Like, You guys go back to school, learn coding, and basically find an entirely different set of values that don't involve asking for any fucking money or power or influence over anything.
That's called creating a modern economy based on human talent in science, technology, and the arts. So yeah, sorry.
Similar thing. Yeah, similar thing of like looking at those people who you said learn to code to. Was just like, oh, it's weird. There's just like these tens of millions of people who will never vote again.
Yeah,
this is so weird. Who did this?
I think they should seek to cultivate talents in the arts.
Yeah, no, there
It's a
should have
modern
been.
country.
Yeah, no. If Bill Clinton had been a more proactive president, if the role of government wasn't diminished in American life, he could have sent all those former coal miners and guys building washing machines. He could have sent them to NYU, and they could have gone to the Tisch School, the Performing Arts.
that's so awesome too, because like arts, actually making like an economy out of art shit. That's just already where money is. You don't make money from that. Like people with like artistic talent move towards concentrations of wealth that already exist. You don't just make one out of thin air when your country is experiencing a massive decline in standard of living.
Yeah, no, I mean, like the idea of like a Russian tech sector in the 90s, you think about like what fueled the American tech sector. It's like, oh, why don't you guys just like have decades of public-private research and then an explosion in development undergirded by incredibly cheap money.
Also, all of which was initially military spending, which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
Read Plenty for some interesting insights on the Russian computer sector in the 1950s.
He continues, I did everything I could to help Russia make the right choice and become a great 21st century democracy. My first trip outside the United States as president was to Vancouver to meet with Yeltsin and guarantee $1.6 billion for Russia so it could afford to bring its soldiers home from the Baltic states and provide for their housing.
I bet that conversation went great. Yeltsin was wearing a barrel of suspenders, and every time he got up, you saw his balls. And if you looked at his notepad of what he was talking about with Clinton, it was just like a pink elephant playing the trumpet. What a great meeting! I'm sure he took a lot away from it. If this is him, if this like his tenure in foreign policy in Russia, if that was him trying his best to bring them into the 21st century, I would hate to see what treating them poorly would look like.
Yeah.
Skipping ahead a little bit. In 1997, we supported the NATO-Russia Founding Act, which gave Russia a voice but not a veto in NATO affairs, and supported Russia's entry into the G7, making it the G8. In 1999, at the end of the Kosovo conflict, Defense Secretary Bill Cohen reached an agreement with the Russian defense minister under which Russian troops could join UN-sanctioned NATO peacekeeping forces. Throughout it all, we left the door open for Russia's eventual membership in NATO, something I made clear to Yeltsin and later confirmed to his successor, Vladimir Putin. In addition to all these efforts to involve Russia in NATO's post-Cold War missions, Albright and our entire national security team worked hard to promote positive bilateral relations. Vice President Al Gore co-chaired a commission with Russian Prime Minister Viktor Chernomyrdin to address issues of mutual interest. We agreed to destroy 34 tons of weapons-grade plutonium each. We also agreed to pull Russian, European, and NATO conventional forces back from borders, though Putin declined to go ahead with the plan when he assumed the Russian presidency in 2000. Just a quick digression here about those 34 tons of weapons-grade plutonium. I don't know if you guys have seen this story, but have you seen the bit about how Russian soldiers are just taking shit from Chernobyl and like glowing rocks, and they're just like, I don't know, moving them around with their hands or like keeping them as souvenirs, or like they're just like, because like when they were stationed in Chernobyl, they were just like driving jeeps through what's known as the Red Forest and kicking up like tons of fucking irradiated dust in the air. But there was this one guy who was apparently like a Russian soldier who was like, hey, what's this? Cool. And picked up a rock of like pure cobalt 60 or something like that.
Well, okay, that's
very grim to think about.
Look, it is never too late to change course. It is never too late to change your life. Take that real estate class, go to coding school, to go to NYU maybe. It's never too late. Even for Russia, who they're finally going to have the non-military, non-nationalistic, non-natural resources sector of the economy that Bill Clinton was asking for. you can go and experience the game Fallout in real life all over Russia now.
I just liked having just a little souvenir, a little souvenir from my time in Ukraine.
I can't wait for the Russian X-Men. There's gonna be like their Professor X is just like a guy who knows the most racist thing to call every person he knows, even without speaking their language. A guy who can withstand any motorcycle crash.